Police in Kenya have been using tear gas to disperse anti-government protesters as clashes continue in the capital, Nairobi. Activists are calling for further demonstrations despite the president abandoning a controversial bill over tax reforms. Well, our Africa correspondent Yusra El-Baghir is there and joins us now from Nairobi. Yusra, just explain to us, what are the people protesting about and what are the chances of this calming down?
People are directly protesting against Kenyan President William Ruto. They told us Ruto must go, we're sick of him, he's killing us, and they've called him a liar because of all the promises that he made in his election campaign in 2022. They say none of those promises have been delivered, and the young people we've met here are incredibly empowered, emboldened because of the crackdown that we've seen over the last 10 days. Now you can see still a standoff between the police and protesters who've managed to gather despite the odds. We've been here for the last 40 minutes. We've seen the police fire tear gas directly at them. We've seen them arrest groups of young men, take them into trucks. We've also seen them beat people. But what they told us is that they'll keep coming back, they'll keep protesting. They've told us we don't have jobs, we're well educated, we're aware, and we won't be cowed by the show of force. Now, we have to remember that William Ruto has been building a portfolio for Kenya based on defense. He now has a deal with the US to lead a peacekeeping police mission in Haiti that cost the US $360 million. So his stability and him staying in power is sorry, the tear gas has been pretty strong, but his desire to stay in power is being met with a lot of challenge. We haven't met a single person, young person here, who hasn't told us that they think Ruto needs to resign. But Ruto's response has been to continually try to disperse protests through his police force. We've spoken to police who've been arresting young people on the streets just purely based on suspicion, saying that they look suspicious and that they're protesting. It's really kicking off here, and I think it's clear that these protests won't just die down.
What are the authorities there able to do? I mean, we've seen them using tear gas to try to disperse the protesters. That's clearly not scaring them. It's not deterring them. There are many other people living in Nairobi just trying to go about their daily lives, aren't there? What is being done to try to quell this?
I mean, Ruto has given interviews. He gave an interview on Sunday, taking very little responsibility for the lives that have been lost. The Kenyan Human Rights Commission has said that at least 39 people have been killed in the crackdown, over 300 injured across the country, and he took zero accountability in their eyes and showed very little remorse. So in terms of him engaging with young people here, he's definitely failed. In terms of the police, they've clearly been told to show restraint. They've been firing blanks at protesters, but as you can see there, they're kind of beating up a protester. It's been a bit of a... You can see the protesters rolling through and facing off. They're really uncowed. The police we haven't seen any live ammunition fired today. We've seen them shooting blanks. But again, firing tear gas directly at crowds, explosive tear gas canisters. But again, it doesn't feel like they're doing enough. And the protesters seem almost immune to the tear gas now. They're just walking through the streets.
Yusra, it's a youth-led protest, as we can see there. Is there a leader of this group who is coordinating what is happening?
No, I mean, they've said time and time again, we're leaderless. We are doing this on our own account. We are deciding to fight against what we see as bad governance, and they're refusing to even associate themselves with any political party. They've just kept it apolitical, youth-led, leaderless, and they've said that time and time again. This is a Gen Z protest. We're engaged, we're educated, and we won't believe the lies that are being peddled by the government.
And Yusra, for those who aren't familiar with Kenyan politics, what about the opposition in Kenya?
We spent spoke to a member of the opposition party this morning who was abducted at 1 a.m. on Monday night last week. And he was consistently asked about whether he was a protest leader. And he told us himself that he told the police, these guys are leaderless and they are a different breed. They won't be cowed by brutality and they refuse to... What's happening here? There's a man being... Okay, we're not sure if that's actually real, so we're going to move on. But they've actually kept away from the opposition. They've maintained their neutrality, and they've said that they won't be used as pawns in the political games. There they've been abducted and arrested, and there have been attempts to intimidate them, but they just keep coming back on the streets again and again, more defiant each time.
And Yusra, just checking that you're safe where you are. We can see the shot from your camera. If you're happy to continue talking to us, are you happy, Yusra?
No, we're happy to keep talking.
Okay. And in terms of this, the group, you know, the fact that they are leaderless, the fact that they are not being represented by the political opposition, it's a new phenomenon, isn't it? And it's a very difficult one for the authorities to cope with.
Absolutely. I mean, I think they're really not able to adjust their tactics and engage with the young people meaningfully. As you can see, they're coming towards them. The protesters are throwing rocks at them. And every time they face off against them, the tension builds and builds. But I think that they're used to protests being easily kind of quelled in the past. But the young people that they're dealing with were too young to remember the police state that, you know, eventually turned into Kenya's multi-party democracy. But their expectations are kind of pretty reasonable. They're just asking to be dealt with in a humane way. They're saying, don't kill us. We're asking for reform. We're asking for change. And you're firing tear gas at us and shooting live bullets. I mean, the fact that at least 39 people have been killed has only fueled the protests and the anger even more. So the opposition member, Gabriel Aguda, we spoke to earlier, told us that he feels like they refuse to change their tactics. As you can see, they've just set a kiosk on fire. It's just effigies, you know, this constant show of resilience and telling the police that they're going to just do whatever they want in the center of town. The message is incredibly clear.
And tell us, Yusra, a little bit about President Ruto. I mean, he called himself the anti-establishment candidate in his campaign.
Absolutely.
Clearly, this isn't something that the people on the streets feel has been borne out in reality.
He built his campaign on promises made to young people. And today there was a website that was launched with the 416 promises, election promises made by William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza party. They're keeping record. And they're telling them, you promised us to reduce unemployment, you promised to tackle corruption. Ruto himself positioned himself as a hustler who's going to bring young people jobs, who is, you know, the antithesis of the state. But he's proven that he is an instrument of the state. And we're just backing up now because we're kind of in the center of a face-off between the police and the protesters. We've seen these trucks continue to drive through. We've seen them drive.
OK, Yusra, we're going to leave you and let you get to a place that's a bit safer than right in the middle of what is happening there on the streets of Nairobi. We will rejoin you when we're able to. Yusra, thank you very much. Yusra Al-Baghir there, our Africa correspondent, giving us the latest from the streets of Nairobi, where it is really, really kicking off. Young protesters furious at the government, furious they say they've been let down. The police moving in, they've used tear gas, they've got batons and riot shields, as you can see as well, but they are now moving in into this part of the centre of Nairobi. The protesters have set fire to kiosks in the area. They're responding to the authorities with stones and throwing missiles as well. Protesters have said that they're going to march to the State House on Thursday and that they don't trust the president, William Ruto. They're arguing about the economy on the streets, police using tear gas canisters, and we think that live shooting is now happening on the streets of Nairobi. So our teams are going to try and get to a place of safety.